Hi, just to catch up on Sunday, in case some of you missed it. We've been looking at Daniel, and the theme of the book of Daniel so clearly is how we remain true to God in a hostile world. When things are difficult, it's good to realise that Daniel was written for the people of God during difficult times. And we've been learning in chapter 1 about God's sovereignty and how God was in control, how God delivered the city of Jerusalem and the people of God into captivity. God was there. God was going ahead of Daniel, preparing the way, giving him favour in the eyes of the officials and even the eyes of King Nebuchadnezzar. We're just discovering what has been going on in Daniel's life. And as we got into chapter 2, it's the story of how Nebuchadnezzar dreamed a dream that he didn't want to tell his magicians and astrologers what the dream was, because he wanted to really know what it was about. It disturbed him in a great way. And eventually it's Daniel, as he faces the threat of death and his 4 friends, that goes to God in prayer. And as he goes to God in prayer in Daniel chapter 2, God reveals what the vision is. And Daniel praises, may be the praise be to the name of God forever and ever. Wisdom and power are his. Changes seasons and times, sets up kings and disposes them. He reveals the deep and hidden things. And he praises and glorifies God. And then he goes into Nebuchadnezzar and he says to Nebuchadnezzar, there isn't anyone else. There's no wise man, no enchanter, no diviner, nothing. This mystery is a mystery, but there is a God in heaven. And this God in heaven reveals mysteries. And then he begins to explain to King Nebuchadnezzar what the dream is, the dream of the image standing with a gold head and a silver chest and a bronze thighs and waist, and down to the iron legs and the iron and clay feet. And a stone, a small stone that comes out of a mountain, not with hands, and it comes and crushes and smashes this image down. And this is what story that Daniel brings to King Nebuchadnezzar. Now, just 3 things that we learnt on Sunday, 3 things that we learn and discover, that Daniel was discovering God in the middle of all this pressure. And he discovers and he allows pressure, first of all, to develop his character. And even in the midst of these difficult circumstances, there is a politeness, there's an integrity, there's a gentleness in the way that he approaches the official. And that's something for us to discover too. How we find in our own work times and in our own places where things get difficult, that we're still to be people of graciousness. As the scriptures say in Colossians chapter 4 verse 6, that conversation should be seasoned with salt. The second thing we discover is that pressure builds in Daniel a dependence on God. He's a teenager still here. He goes with his 3 friends and he goes to God. And you see in his prayer just this honour that he brings back to God, this glorifying of God, this God who is in charge of history. And that amazing verse that teaches us that God is there with us. We know it. He is with us all the way through our lives. A.W. Tozer puts it like this: whatever God can do, faith can do. And whatever faith can do, prayer can do when it is offered in faith. And so Daniel learns to turn consistently to his God. He's building a habit of a lifetime. And finally, thirdly, we discover that Daniel uses or allows pressure to develop his understanding of God. He discovers new names for God. We begin to know of a God who reveals mysteries. We discover one who is the stone, and how the New Testament goes on to talk about Jesus as the living stone that will destroy and crush ultimately all the kingdoms of this earth, because all the kingdoms of this earth will become the kingdom of our God. And so we discover him as the King. And we learned at the end on Sunday that there has been a British Empire, there's been an American superpower, there has been ISIS, there's been the Chinese, all these powers, and they will ultimately fail. All the empires will go because there is one eternal kingdom. So that's where we've been. Now we've got a couple of questions.